Добрый день, уважаемые слушатели. Меня зовут Юрий
Good
Сергеев.
afternoon. My name is Yuri Sergeyev. I'm working in the Bellona Ecological Consulting Agency, and close on the left side of myself, we see Alexander Nikitin, who is going to present. For those who are not familiar with the work of our organization, I would like to say a couple of words about Bellona Environmental Translational Center. It's a non-governmental, non-commercial ecological organization which monitors the environmental issues in Russia and outside. We are part of the international ecological organization Bellona, with a headquarters in Oslo, in Norway. In over 30 years, Bellona has worked in Russia, in Murmansk and St. Petersburg, and our topics were ecological transparency, nuclear safety, industrial waste, and a lot of other topics. After the outbreak of the Ukraine war, our Russian enterprise was closed, and we all moved to Norway, where we work from right now. We work on the topics of industrial wastes in the Arctic region and on nuclear topics. Our today's topic is the International Atomic Energy Agency's role in the time of Ukraine war. Should you have questions during the presentation, please feel free to ask them in written form in chat. After that, we will consider them. The presentation will be also recorded and available for those who have registered for today's event. The report itself can be found on our website, and apart from that, you also can subscribe to our newsletter to always be informed. You can do that with help of the QR code you will see upon the end of our presentation. Thank you for your time, and I pass the mic to Alexander. Thank you, Yuri. Dear colleagues, I would like to start straight away with the thought that the report we are presenting today is not a classical academic, technical, very deep report. We have worked with the actual information from the report to better understand the International Atomic Energy Agency, and Bellona had the following idea. Report is always good, presentation is also fine and good, but it actually would be great if we managed to organize an event, a seminar, or a conference to this topic. How is the security of civil nuclear objects guaranteed during the war time? It would be very interesting for us to listen to other experts and people who have interest to this topic, also to experts dealing with the organizational structures, with the way such organizations work. This could give us an understanding where to move towards in the international community. The situation of February 2022 was for us a complete surprise, as well as for most of the people. We have considered the documents of the Ukrainian government, of the International Atomic Energy Agency, and everywhere you can see this idea. The first, it was a complete surprise for everyone that the war has started, and the next surprising point was that the foreign state started to seize civil nuclear objects by military means. We consider that as nuclear terrorism in Bellona. One may agree with us, one may not agree with us, but my personal opinion is that it really is nuclear terrorism. And Russia has conducted this act of nuclear terrorism after the outbreak of the Ukrainian war. At the same time, it was very interesting for us to observe how the situation is going to develop. We ask such questions as who is going to guarantee the security of civil nuclear objects? How and who will guarantee the working modus as in the time of freedom and peace? What would be the role of international organizations be in this situation? The Security Council of UN, the International Atomic Energy Agency. What would be the reaction of international organizations in such situations when one country with military means seizes a civic nuclear object? IAEA is one of the organizations which also was really surprised by the fact. We have analyzed the documents of IAEA from the very beginning of the war, and at first they had to suddenly stop and inhale and realize what has happened and what they can do. In February, we already will have 3 years after this has happened, and the questions remain the same. Who is going to guarantee the security of civic nuclear objects? And in this respect, we decided to focus on how the IAEA has worked during this time, what they concentrated on, and we created a kind of review of their work during this period. I also must say that what has happened this time has happened for the first time ever. In this presentation, I would like to say a couple of words about what IAEA actually is. 1954, 70 years ago, there was an idea to create an organization which was by that time named Nuclear Aid and for Peace. This organization was dealing with peaceful use of nuclear energy. The idea came up 1954 and 1957. Everyone signed the founding documents. So for almost 70 years, the IAEA is working in this field. And before, we actually never dealt with the question how good IAEA is working. We didn't try to evaluate their work, but in the last 3 years, we suddenly got a lot of interest to this topic. We asked ourselves questions. What can the IAEA do in the current circumstances to guarantee the security of civil nuclear energy objects? We didn't go too deep into details, but we tried to find the answer to the key question. What has this organization achieved? I would like to begin with the thought that status of the IAEA is the following. It's an international organization within the United Nations system responsible for the peaceful use of nuclear energy. Peaceful is the key word here. And during the last 3 years, the IAEA has often emphasized they were a technical body. It is important to understand that they are a technical body without political and legal powers. The IAEA has also in the 1970s received additional mandate and had to ensure that non-nuclear states do not engage in developing nuclear weapons. Since the war has started, so one country has, with military instrument, seized a peaceful nuclear object controlled by IAEA. The IAEA had to do something. You see that 178 countries are members of the IAEA. There are two directive organs of IAEA, the General Conference and the Board of Governors, consisting of 35 members. But you can find all these figures in our report, so I do not want to go into more details. Executive Management, the Director General, Rafael Grossi, he was 1 year ago again re-elected for the Director General. The staff has more than 2,500 employees. IAEA has 20 offices and laboratories worldwide. It's actually pretty much. The regular budget of IAEA is also not secret. There is the regulatory budget and the extra budgetary fund. You can see the figures on the screen. And as long as we started talking about money, the regular budget consists of the money paid by member states of IAEA, and Russia is one of the member states. As we have analyzed the numbers, we also have looked at how much Russia pays for its membership in the IAEA. Russia is not in the leading position. The largest payments come from the USA, and Russia is around on the 10th place. France, Japan are also paying more than Russia, for example. Why I started talking about that? We will later on discuss what is the influence of Russia in the IAEA. And the question is whether Russia has additional influence in this organization due to very high membership payments. Of course, the IAEA has shown reaction to the seizure of the nuclear power plant Zaporizhzhia, and there are different ways how one can evaluate the actions of IAEA. Some people say that IAEA has failed. The others say that this organization has done what it could have. But again, it's very important to understand that IAEA is a technical body. What does it mean, a technical body? It means that this organization doesn't have political and legal powers. It means that IAEA can monitor the work of security systems of a nuclear power plant, whether it works without issues or not. And the experts deal with information IAEA is providing to them. Some questions has been raised to IAEA. For example, why cannot you influence Russia, the country which seized a peaceful nuclear object? Why couldn't you somehow influence the situation that Russia leaves this object? There were also questions asked about the responsibility of Russia for that. And Director General, as well as the Board of Governors, have always answered that these questions are not in their field of competence. And we have read into the documents, into what resources IAEA has and for which aims these resources may be used. And it is really not possible to await from this organization some active action in the current situation. Such situations are just not there in the documents. IAEA cannot do anything to stop the military seizure of a peaceful nuclear object. The IAEA cannot demand anything, and that's also a general problem of international organizations. The international organizations give evaluations. They monitor the situations. For example, international organizations can provide recommendations to the Council, the Security Council, and it's one of the bodies of the United Nations. And they cannot demand anything from Russia. They cannot provide documents which will demand something from Russia, because that's how the international organizations are built. That's the idea of the international organizations and UN. This war has not only caused damages and casualties, this war also brought us to the idea that the international structures must somehow be revised. Some steps must be taken so that in the future similar situations don't come up. We have made several observations and have come to several conclusions realized out of the observation of IAEA work during the wartime. Our first conclusion is the following. Considering the increasing number of civilian nuclear facilities worldwide, the international nuclear safety regulatory structure established 70 years ago is insufficient. And it's really like that. I remember the whole time which was passing since the founding of the IAEA, and if I'm not mistaken, 420 blocks of the nuclear power plants have been constructed during all these years. And I'm not talking about the peaceful use of atom in the medicine and other fields. And there are, if I'm not mistaken, 53 nuclear blocks which are currently in construction. Why do I name these figures? The system of civilian nuclear facilities has changed in the past 70 years dramatically. The quality of it has changed and the quantity as well. So, of course, the structure which has been established 70 years ago is slightly outaged. Did this structure go through the sufficient changes to be adapted to the current situation? And is it capable of still keeping the safety of nuclear facilities, of civilian nuclear facilities worldwide? Our opinion is that presently there are no international mechanism whatsoever to prevent attacks on nuclear facilities in war zones. And actually, you can say the same not only about the IAEA, but also about a lot of international organizations. I have already mentioned that IAEA is a technical body, so it does not align with modern global relations in the field of nuclear energy. The IAEA also lacks necessary powers, multifunctionality, financial material resources, and capabilities. Now I share my personal opinion with you because some colleagues argue with me on that, although we are working in the same field of nuclear safety in Bellona. I personally would suggest splitting IAEA into structures. The one should be really increasing number of civilian nuclear facilities and develop the peaceful use of nuclear energy. IAEA is really doing a lot in this field and is very good in it. And the second structure should be responsible for actual security of nuclear facilities, for example, in such cases which we are discussing today during the war. Then there were two international structures with two different zones of responsibility, of powers, of resources, and it might be easier to deal with such cases. But it's a very simplified point of view, and it's my personal opinion, as I have already mentioned, and that's why I am so interested in conducting a seminar and a discussion between experts in these fields, so that out of this conference we might formulate some recommendations for the politicians. Now I'm coming back to the existing structure of the IAEA. For example, the IAEA has neither the responsibilities nor the means to support decisions made by unified political entities such as the European Union during wartime to ensure the safety of civilian nuclear facilities, for example, sanctions. We have heard about so many sanctions of the European Union against Russia and Rosatom, but what do these sanctions actually do? Rosatom is working abroad a lot, and apart from the sanctions, the IAEA still works together with Rosatom on these foreign construction projects. It's an open question whether it should work like that during an ongoing war. We have a country which has attacked its neighbor. At the same time, this country is building nuclear facilities worldwide, and the IAEA still supports these projects. It actually should have some functions which would prevent the organization of supporting such projects during ongoing wars. We have also seen how the decision-making process within the IAEAs is working. And during our monitoring and evaluation process, we saw that this decision-making process is sluggish and heavily dependent on other international organizations. The IAEA is always looking, what would the Security Council say to that? Or how would the UN react on that? Or what would be the reaction of the government? I don't know, maybe the IAEA needs some additional functions to be more active in the decision-making process, and maybe to have more courage. Of course, it's impossible to say that IAEA has done nothing during the 3 years. We have seen the IAEA missions working on the nuclear power plants, Zaporizhia and Chernobyl. Actually, the IAEA could have decided not to send these missions at all, but that was not the case. The missions are there. The question is how efficient they are working, and we have also written a report on that. We are not absolutely happy with what and how they have done, but it's again the question of what can an IAEA mission do, for example, on the premises of the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, because their participants of the missions might be led to visit some parts of the nuclear power plant by military people, but not led to the other ones. Their work is to observe the work of the nuclear power plant and write reports on the status of nuclear objects. The IAEA has organized a lot of financial support for the nuclear power plants of the Ukraine. In the beginning of January, they have sent for the 100th time equipment to nuclear power plants of the Ukraine. According to our information, they have spent around 15 million euro to this support. I don't know whether it's a lot or not. Of course, billions and billions are sent to the support of the ongoing war, but still, 15 million euro for the support of people working in nuclear power plants in Ukraine is quite a sum. At the same time, we look what the Russian authorities say about the work of IAEA. Sometimes their reactions are really offensive and insulting. As IAEA started its work, it's also started writing reports, and we understand that a nuclear power plant should work and conduct energy through certain technological and technical stations and equipment. Otherwise, the plant should be stopped. The IAEA has started its support in this field, and then Russia suddenly reacted, please do not mess with this topic. It has nothing to do with you. So that shows what is the opinion of Russian authorities towards the IAEA. Ukraine has a more positive feeling about what IAEA is doing in the current situation because the organization is really helping. At the same time, I would say that according to our opinion, it is important to look whether the current structure is working to address the contemporary challenges. It is crucial to enhance the international regulatory framework. And of course, it is important to reflect on the 70 years of experience in both peaceful and military application of nuclear energy, which IAEA has gathered. We, in my opinion, have to update the existing structure and capabilities of the organization because the current time just brings new challenges. It's important to guarantee that no shells fly around a nuclear power object. That's basically everything I wanted to say. Yeah, thank you so much for your presentation. It was really a very short presentation, a very short version of it. And we have also received several questions before the presentation. I know that Alexander tried to bundle them. I also see that we have some questions from the current participants, but we'll try to ask the questions asked before first. Okay, yeah, there are some more political questions, some technical questions. I'll start with the first question by Nadjadin Mishkania. That's rather a political question, considering the person of Rafael Grossi, the Director General of the IAEA. The question was the following. Some observers say that the broader diplomatic work may influence the position of the agency. I have mentioned that already, and I emphasize again that the agency is a technical body. It doesn't have the authority to make political decisions, and this authority is really lacking. It's a very complicated work, and that should be done in the international organizations, in the UN, among the governments. So this work can currently be conducted only on that level. Second question by Vladimir. What are the perspective of creating an alternative agency for nuclear objects on the basis of BRICS states? Yes, of course, it is possible to try to create an analog to IAEA in the BRICS states or whatsoever. But honestly saying, I have the feeling that it should be an international organization acting worldwide. Its work should be supported by all countries, both having nuclear technologies and not having them. This powerful international organization must be only one, but it must have also enough resources and certain responsibility to cover. It should work efficiently. As for the BRICS, no one knows how long BRICS will be existing. In this respect, it makes more sense to focus on the activities of established international organizations. Grigory has sent a question, and I would rather say a lot of thoughts on the subject, and he has written it himself. There's rather his way of thinking. His idea is that Russia was assisted by small deeds. As Russia has emerged from the Soviet Union, a lot of projects in Russian Federation were financed to guarantee the security of nuclear peaceful objects in its different parts. And maybe it's time to come up with a network security structure on the international level when it comes to such a sensible topic as nuclear field. So he keeps on elaborating on how one should react to actions of states like Russia. How can we prevent such events in the future? That's a huge question, and that's not me who should explain you something about that. Should Bellona get support to organizing an event dedicated to this field and to these questions? We would be gladly to elaborate on them because there are a lot of experts worldwide in this topic. Next question by Victor. What responsibility can be held for Russia for seizure of the peaceful nuclear facilities? How is it possible to make Russia responsible? What consequences can there be found for Russia? At the moment, the international organizations express their concerns about something. That's the way how the international organizations act. Let's take Security Council or IAEA. The functions of these bodies must contain some responsibility for seizure of nuclear facilities because it's insecure for the nature and for people living in this nature. Next question. How good has IAEA conducted its functions and what else could have been done? Well, I have touched upon this topic a bit during my presentation. Yes, there are certain questions to IAEA because everything was very sudden and IAEA had to act quickly. During the war, all kinds of conclusions must be done much quicker. The IAEA missions, and we have mentioned that in our report, wrote in the texts the same what they have heard from the Russian administration of the nuclear facilities. I don't know for sure. We have to analyze that, and of course, there is a way to make it better in the future, and IAEA is also an organization which work can be done better in the future. Igor Nazarov asks the following. Is it possible to stop the participation of Russia in the IAEA and participation in different scientific nuclear projects and initiatives for a while? There is the Makfol-Yermak group. They have formulated their recommendations on sanctions in the very beginning. The topic of suspending Russia's membership was also raised in the document, and the topic of membership in the international organizations is in general a very slow process. It's a very bureaucratic procedure, and there are a lot of complicated steps necessary for that. Highly bureaucratized. To be able to make such decisions, one needs consensus. But this question is always there in the air. So if we talk about creating a new structure, or if we speak about improving the current structures, then it might be also a topic for consideration. We have several more questions which we received during the presentation. Luca Cuppela is asking, how would you comment on the Geneva Convention, the International Tribunal on War Crimes as an instrument for containing the aggressor? Well, all these organizations, they should have a saying in the situations when nuclear peaceful facilities are seized. But we see how it actually works. For example, the International Court, the Criminal Court issues a decision on arresting the president of the Russian Federation. But how does it actually work in reality? We see that in reality. Of course, these structures should also be involved in the process, but it's also important to see how the mechanism actually works for the decisions to come true. There is no need in making conclusions just out of the need to make conclusions. Aditya Parik, another question. How did the IAEA rely on the satellite images provided by Russia when the specialist of the missions had no access to certain parts of the nuclear facilities? Well, they did use the satellite images for sure, and on some images we have seen objects which had nothing to do with the nuclear facility itself. For example, military trucks or weapons. And of course, IAEA has used this information. Those who have the opportunity to use satellite images for observation have consulted the IAEA on the subject. And IAEA has also printed out and published the satellite images, as well as other media. There were some media observing the nuclear power plant in Zaporizhia. Yeah, of course, and IAEA has a division for controlling the and analyzing the satellite images. So, of course, they are using this information. Yeah, that is true. And the group of observers currently present on the premises do not have access to all parts of the nuclear facility, as I have mentioned before. Why? Most likely because there are some objects they shouldn't be seeing. Most likely it is connected with the militant groups who have seized the object. There is no huge secret on it. It's war. There is a war going. And I already have emphasized that hundreds of times. A nuclear power plant during the wartime is a much more dangerous object than during a peaceful time. A rocket can occasionally fly close to it, or a drone aircraft might be falling on its premises. It's all question of danger. We have another question. Who could create such a modern structure in the current time? 70 years ago, these were the countries who have won the Second World War. And who could establish such an organization today? Yeah, thank you for this question. My idea was to look closely to the Security Council and how it works. Of course, the situation has dramatically changed since the time the Security Council has been established. That's topic number one. Topic number two, the United Nations is much more than Security Council. There is a General Assembly, which, for example, can make resolutions on what structures should be established and which functions these structures should have. Those who want to change something and really want to do that should come up with the initiatives. There are governments, there are presidents, there are a lot of states which have a lot of things to say against how the United Nations and the Security Council are working together today. On the last General Assembly of the UN, a lot of countries have raised this issue, and they spoke about the necessity of changes in the structure of the Security Council. It is necessary to take the 70 years experience to analyze the current situations with how the nuclear energy is used, and then to try to understand whether the current structures really are sufficient to cover the needs and to face the challenges of today. Because using the nuclear energy is, first of all, connected with the question of safety. It is highly important to analyze these questions, and I am absolutely sure that it is necessary to raise this question on the level of General Assembly of the UN. Thank you, Alexander. As far as I can see, there are no questions left. Again, if some of you have more questions, you can gladly write to us per email. The video recording will be accessible on our website, and the participants will get the link per email. Also, please don't hesitate to sign up for our newsletter. After the translation is over, you will see a QR code on the screen, which you can use for that. As a conclusion, I would like to say that the report and presentation of Alexander was a kind of appeal to start thinking in this direction. We have to start thinking in this direction. Otherwise, we won't be able to act, and very unpleasant situation may come up out of that. Thanks God, we don't have any nuclear radiation incidents on the territory of the seized nuclear objects today, but no one can guarantee that it won't happen tomorrow. Thank you very much for your attention. Again, we will do our best to start a broader discussion on this subject in the future. Thank you very much, and see you.